Good evening. Welcome to Research with Rafa. This past week on UP. Good evening, and welcome to Research with Rafa. This past week on UPL, we had 4 total series, 2 in the winners' semifinals, and 2 in the second round of the lower bracket. Although, out of those 8 total teams, we had to regretfully say CYAT to 2 of those teams that night. World Class Imperiums was the first team to get knocked out, and while Sudsy from Simplicity Esports definitely had one of his best performances of the year on Corky in Game 1, he wasn't the only thing on fire. Let's see what Panda did in Game 2.
I smell fear.
I sure do love the smell of a world-class roast. Jokes aside, getting run down by a jungler who takes Ignite Smite both games is definitely a recipe for mental boom. Speaking of things that go boom, Supernova was the other team that was knocked out after last week's series against Mirage Esports, despite a nail-biting 1-1 finish in Game 2. Mirage Esports had this to say to Supernova on their attempts to win in Game 3. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Meanwhile, in the winter semifinals, a new esports had the tall task of taking down Maryville University. However, for one particular player, he had a very special pocket pick to neutralize Niles' infamous gangplank as well as the rest of the collegiate squad.
Would you like to see my mask? I use it in my experiments. I'm probably not very frightening to a guy like you, but these crazies, they can't stand it.
So when did the nut take over the nut house?
They scream and they cry. It's just your day now. Well, he's not faking. Not that one. I'll talk to the judge and see if I can get him moved to the secure wing at Arkham. I can't treat him here.
Finally, our stream series of the day was 100 Thieves Next swiftly taking down Radiance. Hashtag successful heist. We were lucky enough to catch up with one of the Stars Zoomers on the day of after the series and get his most current thoughts. Alk Battery has more from last week.
And thank you, Rafa. Tonight I'm joined by 100 Thieves Next top laner, Tenacity. Always a pleasure to talk with you, man. That was an incredible series tonight against Radiance, even after constantly being dived and not really interacting in too many team fights for Game 2. How are you feeling after that? I mean, considering what happened, a lot of people have you guys as favorites to win all of North American Amateur, as well as just the entire scene for the Scouting Ground circuit. Is there anyone else you guys have your eyes on? Of course, of course. Before we take a look at the semifinals, I actually wanted to touch on that Mirage series from a few weeks ago. It was a little bit closer with a 2-1 obviously going in your favor. Do you think that Mirage could potentially have a run through the bracket? And if so, who would be that X factor for them, considering that team is kind of stacked? Brazilian, okay. I mean, come on. I'm sure that Tony Top has your respect after Game 2. No one gets to just beat his Jack 6 times in a row and get away with it. Sorry. This just in, I'm getting a live report from our producer that in the Upsurge playoff bracket, Anu have actually 2-0'd Maryville That's surprising considering Anu's recent form. I mean, hasn't been too tight. With the semifinals now being Anu versus 100 Thieves next, what are your expectations for this matchup? Pretty hype matchup between the two of you. In recent news, I want to, backtrack a little bit more general. Your boy Poom just got upgraded to the LCS stage. I'm sure you're just excited as the rest of us to see someone who not even 3 months ago was playing on the stage right alongside you, right? Tenacity, I love you, man. It seems that we've actually got more members of of 100 Thieves coming in here. Papa Smithy and File and Bandy, you guys have me starstruck and now kind of stumbling over my words. What have you guys thought about your boy Tenacity's your performance tonight? Well, Tenacity, do you have any words to say to the fans out there for 100 Thieves? Well, this has been Alec Battery reporting live from the 100 Thieves Cash App facility and throwing it back to the desk with Rafa.
Thank you, Tenacity, and thank you, Alec Battery. This will conclude Resurge with Rafa tonight, but you better get your PogChamps out in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, because we got a stream series right up next.
And welcome back to the Upsurge Esports Premier League. My name is William Chillingwalkmore here, brought by the man who interviewed Alec Battery, of course. But right now we have to jump right into draft because you know what? We can talk about that video all day. We can talk about you and Rafa putting up some great quality content. But right now we have to talk about the storyline between Maryville University and Mirage Esports. But Alec, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. And honestly, I want to watch these two teams immediately, as soon as we can, honestly. We saw the performance over in Big League last night. I know you were there for that. Mirage versus 100 Thieves, and Maryville so far have not looked too hot themselves recently, like I said. And it is honestly, I'm super scared for this matchup between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams are looking kind of shaky. Of course, we saw what happened last night between Mirage Esports and 100 Thieves next year. Mirage taking the 0-3 against them. But when we take a look at draft right now, we have to see what Mirage has planned because when we saw what they did against 100 Thieves, they were targeting Ken V1. But I think in this game, looks like they're targeting Niles and Wolf on their side. Yeah,
and for Mirage, we got to see a little bit last night. Robbie Bob is actually a massive player on this team. I know recently when we take a look at Mirage, everyone's like, oh, Asilian. Oh, we look at Hayami, who's been an amazing playmaker in the first 15 minutes for this team. But Robbie Bob was able to finally show off. I mean, we've talked about his Galio before, but his man Zed is something to fear, and it looks like we're going to finally pick up on the Varus. And for Mirage, this is about stock standard. We're getting the Ashe that we've seen from them before. I'm not super keen on this matchup, but I know beforehand we were really looking forward to some Senna Wukong.
Yeah, we were talking about Senna Wukong, but honestly, this is kind of scary because usually when we see Senna being picked up, seeing Varus being picked up here, it's usually kind of like a mistake, right? Usually Varus has like a tremendous win rate right now, and especially in professional play, and especially in the amateur scene here. So I'm not too sure about giving up this Varus pick over to Maryville University, knowing that, we have the potential of seeing this Varus in the mid lane if Mirage, isn't mindful of it. But instead, Mirage is going to pick up that Jarvan 4 in the jungle for Hayami, and looks like we're going to see how well Asilian plays on this Ashe as well.
Yeah, I actually really like this Jarvan for Hayami. Not only does it give him that early game proactivity that we're actually looking for from this team, giving him these things that are just scaling junglers that take a lot of gold for themselves but are also very individually powerful, have not looked fantastic for Mirage in the past. So really love to see this. For Maryville, however, I've always been interested in seeing how Value and Shady are going to match up versus Asilian and Mist, because on paper, I think that these guys just kind of, no offense, blow these guys out of the water. But when we take a look, Value and Shady have not been looking, all that well-rounded throughout the last couple weeks in scouting grounds. So for Maryville, finally, I want to see them play around this bot side, make sure that they're set up for success. And with this Thresh and Varus, I honestly don't expect anything less.
And of course, with that Thresh locked in, they're going to be locking Kindred as well for Maryville. So a good high HC jungler for Iconic on their side. And knowing that Graves is gone, it's going to be another jungler who wants to farm it out. And a good matchup into J4, but Mirage instead going to be taking away the Orianna as well. And as we approach the next two bans here, it looks like they're targeting the top side here, banning LeBlanc and of course banning Galio from the mid lane as well. But so far, these guys, targeting the top side so far.
Yeah, obviously they want to try and get rid of all of Tony Top's much stronger picks. We've seen him on the Jax. Like I mentioned, his Jax has not looked too good throughout scouting grounds, but he might be able to pull it out. Chilling Orc, I have to defer to you. You're the draft god, draft kingdom, every single game. What are you looking for when you have this, you're looking for this counter pick for Mirage? We'll like to see exactly what Maryville, but I can't imagine it won't be something maybe like Ornn. So if you're Mirage, what are you looking for Tony Top?
So honestly, right now, when we take a look at Tony Top's champion pool, I would say that it's only depending on what Maryville picks, because if I'm Maryville right now and we see Mirage's composition, it's very clear that Mirage wants to advance forward, right? You have the J4, you have the Rakan, you have the ball delivery, playing some basketball on the courts, and all Maryville has to do is see if they can kite back, see if they can disengage away from Mirage, and if they do, if they, deny the initial engage from Mirage, then, Maryville could look to survive here. So right now, if I'm Tony Top, I just got to pick something that can help everyone else go in here, especially, when Maryville's locking that Karma in the mid lane, probably going to be locking a pre-safe top laner as well on their side for Niles. Looks like you just have to pick a champion that can just get in there, get close and personal.
Last night, I was super excited, and now that we have Aatrox, this may happen. I've been wanting for Mirage specifically, last night versus 100 Thieves, please just pick Kled. I don't know why this champion is not being picked. I really wanted to see it. And I think, like you're saying, we're looking for engage that helps the rest of the team, does really well for himself, and can definitely fight against this Aatrox. Kled would be perfect here. However, knowing Tony Top, it's probably either going to be Renekton. I would hope we're not going to see a Malphite, but it could be one of those things.
Why not, right? Why not? I think that you're going to need something, but instead, looks like Mirage. I'm not too sure if that was the Akali. We're just kind of checking to see if it was. And it looks like Akali's going to be the Kennen pick here for Mirage. And when we take a look at that damage, I think it's looking pretty good here. They have a lot of ways to get in. As long as they get to that flank and tackle that Varus, then, it's going to be looking pretty good for them.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for how this Kennen is going to kind of work versus that poke Varus. I think in theory, if you play it on paper, Varus looking to just try and poke him out before the fights, but Mirage have been doing a pretty diligent job at trying to clear out vision when they are ahead, and when you take a look at Hayami looking to play that proactive jungler versus someone like Niles who tends to overstep his boundaries and does have a lot of isolated deaths, this could be a potential path to victory here for Mirage in this match.
Honestly, and I think this is a game where, you see two clear, distinctive styles of compositions, right? Maryville University wants to disengage, wants to get the objectives first and make sure the fights are front to back, whereas Mirage, they want to get in there, they want to try and create some havoc, and of course, look to flank and get to that backline, get to Varus and get to Kindred, and see how much disruption they can cause here. So I think this is where, if any one team gets a big lead, this is where it can just kind of snowball out of control here. And honestly, I think this is a game where it's just about ease of execution.
For sure. And I'm also interested to see what kind of soul point we get, because I think Ocean Soul becomes a massive problem for one of these teams. If the other team gets it, it's just really difficult for Mirage to try to burst down any of these members for looking for an engage. Now, for Maryville, what I'm looking for, specifically, I want to take a look at Niles. Coming into this match, there have been a lot of question marks around this guy. Obviously, everyone's talking about Captain America, the poster boy for Scouting Grounds and for the collegiate program as a whole. Niles recently has not been looking amazing, to put it frankly. And I want to see this, this guy who has, been able to tout himself as the best top laner in amateur at certain points, to kind of not only round himself out, but to shore up some of those weaknesses coming into playoffs. We're already halfway through playoffs for most of these leagues. I'm looking specifically at Niles to step up as a leader for this team and kind of set an example for what Maryville is.
Yeah, I mean, I've already spoken some words with Niles, especially back when I was at college too, and he definitely has a lot of leadership qualities. He definitely knows how to keep his head in check here, and it's definitely a disappointment to see him go through these struggles and to see him kind of just kind of flop when it comes to performance here. So hopefully, this is a time for him to step back up. This is a time for him to show him what he's all about here, especially on loser side, because right now this is a loser semifinals, and this is where it can get kind of dangerous because the winner of this, that means that they're gonna have to play against the winner of Radiance versus Simplicity here, and that's a pretty tall task, especially on the loser side. This is your last chance, and I want to see Maryville University, kind of rally themselves together and see if they can push themselves to grand finals.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared to look on the opposite side of that bracket. Radiance themselves have not been looking too hot. I think Simplicity has made an actually really, what's the word for it, convincing run throughout losers bracket. And like we've been saying, like we may have noted before, this is one of Maryville's last chance to stay in Scouting Grounds. I'm not too sure on how many points they can earn through Focus and through Risen, but they are not looking amazing. They just got knocked out of from even making playoff contentions over in Cup. They got knocked out the other night versus Polar Ace. So right now, Upsurge is one of the biggest chances for Maryville to make their splash over in the scouting ground circuit. And for Mirage, for this team, I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, yes, you have a lot of developing talent. Specifically, you look at that bot lane, but Mirage have shown a lot of beautiful talents throughout their kind of split run. And honestly, Tony Top has not looked the most fantastic. So if there was an avenue for Maryville to try to attack, I think it would be in this amazing matchup for Niles.
And speaking of Mirage, you know, we always got to credit Hyami and Robbie Bob in the mid and jungle duo. We saw what happened yesterday here. Games 2 and game 3 was honestly all off of them, and that's what they had to do. And, you know, game 2 was kind of shaky. I got to admit, you know, the draft wasn't in favor for them. But in game 3, they had, I think, a lot of agency in their hands. And unfortunately, you know, 100 Thieves kind of just outplayed them. But still, you know, it definitely shows some shining lights for Hyami and Robbie Bob when it comes to just talents here. And honestly, I just have to see what they do here in this best of 3, because, you know, I think this first game can kind of just determine it.
Yeah, especially with how a lot of, you know, we've been going through the hell month, right? So almost 600 games worth of Scouting Grounds content just going back to back to back every single day. I'm sure that it is taking a toll on some of these teams. The fatigue is starting to set in. And for Robbie Bob and Hyami, like you were saying, they are such key playmakers for their team and just kind of the linchpins for how this team tends to operate. Robbie Bob being the emotional center. We actually got to see Hyami over on Challenger's chat room talking with Cubby and Smacks about, I mean, just how he's playing on Mirage, that Tails is pushing this team to not only be creative, but to kind of be a little bit more innovative. And we got to see the Zed, like you're saying, in game 2. I'm hoping we maybe see a little bit of that tonight. I'm not too sure on it, but I think like you're saying, game 1 will end up kind of determining the temperature and the flavor for these teams. And like we see in a lot of series, if Hyami's not having a good day, the team tends to look a little bit lost, especially for Asilian's positioning.
So let's hope that Mirage can keep that momentum going in this match here against Maryville University. And let's see if Maryville University can kind of bounce back from the recent loss of performances so far in these past couple weeks here. But before we go and do that, we're going to go on a quick spectator delay. But before that, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors.
Started with a vision of quality, a vision of uniformity. We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from
And welcome back to the Upsurge Premier League loser semifinals between Maryville University and Mirage Esports. And we saw what happened last night between Mirage Esports and 100 Thieves next on the big league. But right now, it's going to be a different game here, seeing what Maryville can do, seeing if they can come back from a good deficit of losses, and see if Mirage can come back from their big loss against 100 Thieves as well.
Yeah, it's honestly just really surprising to see kind of the trajectory of a lot of teams. I think obviously when you look at it, Maryville was going to end up being in a lot of playoffs, and I'm looking to see how Mirage kind of shapes themselves. They've been a little bit shaky. I'll hold that as potentially shady, looking for an invade going in on miss. He's just gonna say hi, but Hayami going for electrocute kind of just tells me, and we were talking about this a little bit while we were waiting for it. You're going electrocute on Jarvan. You're waiting for the 15-20 minutes on Jarvan. We're just going to see how Hayami performs. I'm expecting this guy to do a lot of damage, specifically looking at that top side like we talked about. But, man, I am... It's one of those things where I would have just preferred to have seen the Aftershock.
I mean, that is the one thing that I'm kind of worried about. I mean, we saw what happened yesterday between Hayami against 100 Thieves. All 3 games, he was definitely down the CS and the gold score around the 15-minute mark, just because he was giving up a lot of farm, or if not that, forcing a lot of ganks for his laners. And that's where I'm honestly kind of worried, because if Hayami continues this trend here, people and teams can just start to understand the way Hayami wants to play, that he is a ganking jungler. He doesn't want to focus on power farming, and this is where teams can just kind of warp form, or if not that, track him. And if they manage to limit that option, that's where it can get pretty tough for Hayami. So hopefully, Hayami doesn't get read like a book. Hopefully Hayami can get these ganks off, because if he doesn't, he has. But we're talking about electrocute. Hayami has flashed forward onto Iconic. Iconic has to get out of here. Wolf and Maryville are looking to fight the 2v2, but a great Inner Flame is going to catch Hayami, and that means that first blood is going to be going over to Iconic and a mark as well. Big mistake from Mirage.
Yeah, and not only that, but he was trying to try to prevent a possible invade coming out from Iconic. Iconic doesn't even have to worry about this. Thankfully for Hayami, he won't get triple buffed on this instance. I mean, he will share some gold over there, but looking really good already. And like you were saying, most important part about playing against Mirage is making sure you're able to establish that river priority as well as vision, just to make sure that Hayami's not looking for anything cheesy in the early game. And even then, we see Shady.
Yeah, more of this early game shenanigans from Mirage Esports means that Hayami's going to go aggressive, but doesn't force any sort of summoner spell from Shady overall. But with Shady hugging around the blue buff, means that he's probably going to look to annoy Hayami in the jungle.
Yeah, just making sure he grabs that vision. Take a look at how much vision is already put down into the bot side. We have it already sitting in front of the blue buff. They're going to see Hayami as he comes out of this jungle, I hope, as he hits the Scrying Bloom. And honestly, at this point, this just allows for Iconic to just go for a free farm. He can sit up in this top side. He even gets super lucky on the scuttle here. We'll be able to get his first mark. And it's looking all up and up as Wolfie takes a little bit of a bad trade there in mid lane. Honestly, though, this is just looking really good for Maryville. At least sets them up for this early game like we were talking about. And we still have our eyes on Hayami, who's looking for something in mid lane potentially, as Iconic also tries to find something on a Tony top here.
Yep, slow does come down, but Tony Top does have the dash and should be able to get out just fine, as, with Iconic showing means that Hayami should be able to get some counter juggling done here and pick himself back in this game. So, good little small victory for Mirage.
And I love this coming out from Mirage for this bot side. They're setting up a pretty nice freeze for themselves, able to just keep this wave right in front of this turret. And even if value, they don't know where Hayami is, they should have an idea, hey, Jarvan's going to be sitting in this bot side, so they have to give up a lot of this wave. And I was going to maybe note, how is it looking down here for Asilian? Is value taking control of this lane? They're setting up a little bit of a slow freeze here. They're going right on a value.
Yep. The entrance does land. The knockup should be there. Value is going to be going down from Hayami, as Hayami's looking to see if he can go aggressive on a Shady. One more auto attack should do it. The flash 4 from both bot lane comes through, as Hayami does not have the flash. Iconic will be able to pick up 1 kill in return, but still a 1 for 2 in favor for Mirage.
Yeah, beautiful job right there. Just barely catching him out. Missed with an amazing grand entrance to start. Value flashing a little bit too late. We'll have to grab that back, but double summoners here are gone for the Mirage bot lane, and they're going to throw this massive wave down into the turret. So really love that from Mirage. I would have loved to have seen, maybe Hayami ends up living through that, because we could have seen a potentially early Drake with this back, but still, fantastic job for the Mirage bot lane.
No, Yami did go reset and pick up a Ruby Crystal and start looking to path towards that bot side here, but a mark has shown up on Hayami's Gromp, and you already see the bot side looking to see if they can get Iconic another mark for himself, but on the top side, Hayami and Tony Top are looking to go on a Niles. Niles is forced to flash forward away from his turret, but that means that this should but all guarantee his death for himself, as Tony Top want to see if he can get that kill, as should be able to do it. There it is. And in the meantime, Iconic getting caught out as well. Good defense from Mirage's bot lane to make sure Iconic does not get this Gromp.
Yeah, I think he should be fine. I think they're going to go for something onto Mist here under the turret. Shady.
Yeah. How's that balance? Yeah, so should be able to get out just fine. But big thing right now is seeing if they can deny this Gromp. But knowing that Wolf is around the corner, this Gromp is going to be gone, and a plate also going over to Maryville as well. So a good cross-map play so far.
Yeah, I like, okay, he gets the Gromp. I think if you're Mirage's bot lane, you have to be willing to say, hey, how much are we willing to give up on this? You don't have summoners. You can't really contest. A lot of damage going on. I think Mist is going to kind of disincentivize. But now, I mean, this just gives Maryville's bot lane all kinds of priority under this turret. And take a look at Val. He's already got his, he's only got long swords, but Mist actually, okay, so he ended up using the heal from his flash. Man, Summoner Spellbook's gonna throw me off all kinds of ways. But, okay, so he still got the Gromp. You lose a bunch of turret plates. I'm a little confused on that trade there for Mirage.
Yeah, oh man, speaking of Summer Spellbook, we have Wolf and Tony Top having it. So, of course, you see Tony Top running that Ignite. He has burned TP to get back into lane here. And this is where we have to keep track of what Spellbooks these guys are going to be looking to swap to. On the bot side, though, look at the CS discrepancy. Value up 54 to 38 right now. And even though he did lose a big wave from that crash here, he has picked it a lot with Iconic and Wolf. He's showing their side on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, he's doing pretty okay for himself. I love that this is typically what we tend to see from Value, making sure that he's able to not only stay up in farm, but also being pretty aggressive in some of his positioning. He does have level 6 here, and with this level lead specifically because of that early back here for Mist, they will have potential kill priority already. We might even see them go for this early drag here, as Wolfie just kind of shadowing in mid lane. He just wants to say hi. He's like, okay, let's kind of test the waters, put some feelers out there, but so we're going on a Hayami.
Well, they have found a Hayami, Chain of Corruption, and everything else layering on. He has to use a Blast Cone to get out of it. The balance will be able to save him from that Ignite. So good stuff from Mist. But at the end of the day, Maryville does take that first Drake. It is going to be the Mountain Drake for them.
Yeah, great job for them. They're able to pick that up. Thankfully, for Mirage, not a lot of these members will be building too many resistances, but hey, free resistances are free. I'm not going to complain. I think especially from the side of Maryville, and blowing that flash from Hayami is so huge. He's about to hit level 6. This is where I'm expecting them to look for something on bot side. Your bot lane's going to soon hit this level 6 on this Ashen Rakan. You could find an engage potentially. I'll hold that. Niles.
Oh, top side are going to see if they can duke it out, but Niles has a ward under and that move speeder. Tony Top is literally just one
Wait a minute
away, but the Ignites and taking a turret shot means that Niles misplays and goes down. That's a mistake from them, but on the bottom side, misses spawn a 2-man knockup with that grand entrance, and Wolf is now cut off from the rest of his team. Robbie Bob looking to go for the chase. A shockwave forces the flash from Wolf, but that means no more action on the bottom side, but we have to talk about Niles. That's a mistake, my man.
Yeah, we were just talking about this. Niles, my man, take the early matchup that you just love to see, and he got punished. Something we also noted that this guy has a massive amount of solo isolated deaths. And then we just see right there, he tries to take the 1v1. He auto-cancels, I think, 3 times. I know it was at least 2, and it's just so heartbreaking to see for Captain America of this squad. And Tony Top does blow the flash in that instance, and we take a look at that bot site trade. I mean, you're not level 6, Mist. Sadly, we do not have the we don't have the Grand Entrance, the quickness coming in to try to maybe find something onto Iconic and Shady. As we see the lane swap come out here, perfect job from Maryville, at least objectively speaking, moving and getting immediate priority for this Rift Herald.
I mean, this is something that they have to do, knowing that Value and Shady are just the stronger 2v2 right now on the map. Knowing that Niles also kind of threw his lead away, I think this is the play that you kind of have to do to salvage the game based on the situation at hand here. So a great play overall. You have to see where what Iconic can do here, but Niles looks to see if he can go aggressive on a Cillian. It does have that flash and that heal. It's going to force it out. So Niles, a good way of punishing the opposing AD carry.
Yeah, an insane job right there. Just trying to force out and make sure that the Cillian is down. Honestly, pretty sure that this is just kind of just going to equalize the lane. Like you were saying, take the winning matchup. Make sure you try to stabilize whatever losses you have. And even then, it's only about 400 gold. No turrets have been taken. And we even take a look across. The turret plates are actually not that, not too far down. So looking as even as it can get for Mirage. And even with this kill lead, they've evened up the gold. And realistically, we're getting close to 15 minutes. I want to soon have that temperature check here for Hayami. We're coming in as doctors, Dr. Chillingwalk. How are we looking? How are we looking on Mirage? Early on, we weren't super convinced about Robbie Bob's Orianna, but we haven't seen that massive team fights. We've just been seeing these, outer lane skirmishes, and realistically, I'm expecting for Iconic to look to blow open this bot lane matchup as we see all of them rotate into this lane.
Tony Top has reset and has a teleport, so any action that can occur on the bottom side means that he will be there, as Now's TP is down as well. Iconic more likely looking to see if he can make some action on the bottom side as Hook does land the quickness into the grand entrance, comes through. TP from Wolfie is coming in hot as a summer spell comes in. The burn might be able to take it, but no. Miss is just barely alive, but with Iconic holding the Rift Herald, this might be their play.
Yeah, one of the biggest questions I had last night versus 100 Thieves was what the performance for Miss was going to be. One of the members that is a little more shaky than the rest of the roster here, and so far, Miss has not looked fantastic on the Rakan. I think that there's also just a couple of champions on the enemy side for Mirage for Maryville that tend to make Rakan's life a living hell, but so far has been one of the parts in this game that hasn't looked fantastic as they get a couple of plates for themselves. They don't quite break the turret there, which is a little sad if you're on the side of Maryville. Calling for some TPs. We have 40 seconds on this Drake. It seems that Mirage want to try and contest for this amount of vision that Maryville was able to stake down.
Cloudsoul is coming up in the next 30 seconds as Grand Entrance is going to come through to put pressure on a value, but keep in mind that this is a Varus and it is a lethality Varus at the end of it, so a lot of initial damage coming in from that piercing arrow will definitely hurt, and you already see the first turret now being taken away for Maryville University, and that means that Value and Shady are now free to move around the map, and honestly a good take from them.
Yeah, they're looking good for themselves. So far, we take a look at some of the rotations. Now's looking to try and punish Tony Top, but we'll get kind of spotted out on that Shuriken being tossed out. I wanted to check in on Iconic. He does have his 4 stacks, so he's looking about as strong as possible, and Hayami looking to try and punish this. You see where he's positioned. They have the ward there. They're going to try and blow up Iconic, but Hayami, with the spider sense, he activates them. They might even go for a pinch here, as I was hoping maybe he'd snuck into the Dragon Pit, try to find something, and take a look at ultimates. I want to get that check for them. Everyone's up. They could look for a pick onto maybe this bot lane, but, I mean, Hayami's just kind of sitting back and farming is not exactly what we wanted to see from the Jarvan early on.
Yeah, and you already see Mirage looking to give up some pressure in the river, and they want to walk together as a team as well to clear all of this vision that Maryville has already put down, but this means that both these teams want to fight over this dragon. TPs are up for both top laners, but Tony Top has taken a good amount of damage knowing that Niles has started to spike with his levels coming up, but these guys are right now playing the game of chicken. Who wants to start this dragon first? Whoever does might just lose it.
Yeah, I think Tony Top just needs to hit the back right now, make sure that he's reset on HP. He's about half health, and that's going to be really useless on a Kennen who dies as soon as he tries to go in on something or with a fight.
Speaking of the fight here, a one-man shockwave catches Iconic, but the Lambs are spikes
Oh
going to
my
be staying him. But look at the backside. 3 of them are going in. A piercing arrow manages to hit all 3 of them from Value. And Tony Top seeing if he can salvage this fight, but everyone else from Mirage, from Maryville University, are looking to advance forward. 2 of them are with blinking health bars. Robbie Bob goes down. That is a 1 for 4 in favor for Maryville University.
Yeah, an amazing fight right there. Not only did Shady find an insane hook to start it off, but Value, I mean, that was beautiful to watch on the Varus. Not only does the Chain of Corruption land and completely stuff this Rakan engage, but then we see that piercing arrow come out, and it just absolutely, it struck right in the heart for Mirage. Ends up taking 4 members. They get themselves this Cloud Drake, and man, Maryville, after a little bit of a shaky topside performance, are looking really strong coming into these 15 minutes.
I mean, there's a reason why people love this Varus, right? I know it's not Valentine's Day here, but if you give it up, that means that blue side's gonna be taking it. And right now, that was a lot of damage. I'm just waiting to see what happens here. And honestly, we have to take a look at the replay, Ulk.
Yeah. So I just want to take a look. You see where Value's positioned right in front of you, and those chain of corruptions end up landing, just completely stops this. And you see that long range hook. And like you were saying, it wasn't even the front side of that fight that was, the main focus. Value in the bot lane for Maryville just completely stiff-armed and kept away Mirage's backline from coming in. So beautiful job from them. And now we're going to see them take this power of this bot lane, the powerful duo that we've been talking about in Value and Shady, to move them across the map. Rift Herald's coming up in about 2 seconds. They'll be able to pick this up. And if they want, they can then muscle their way into mid lane. This is where Maryville's strengths have been so far, is they take their opponents, they grab themselves a gold lead specifically through their jungle and bot lane, and they're just able to muscle opponents around the map, make sure that they can just push them out of lanes. We'll see as Niles tries to survive a dive.
Looks like Mirage Esports want to muscle through. Now as the knockup does land, the Grand Entrance is going to knock him up as well. But Niles turns it around with 1. He might just turn around with 2. He's going to be slaying Mirage's jungler, and he does a double kill under their turret. Niles, you are coming back strong.
We were just talking about muscle, and it looks like Mirage, your lunch money is going to have to be given up a lot earlier than you maybe thought, as they try to go for that dive. But you have so many weak members. I mean, you have Hayami, who's sitting on an an electrocute Jarvan. But you have the Syndra Hulk, you have, your Giant Spell. You're not going to be able to do too much damage. We even take a look. Robbie Bob is nowhere near close enough to pick up any kind of damage for himself. So Aftershock lands, or the Shockwave lands, and it's just, man, Niles able to pick himself up the double kill right there. Not only that, stops the turret from going down too. So Mirage just getting kind of pushed around all across the map. And even the moves that they're making, it feels like they're tripping up.
I mean, that's Niles, right? You call him Captain America. Maybe he's not too hot on the offense, but when he's defending something, you know that shield is going to be coming through. Taking out 2 members means that Mirage, honestly, that's a pretty big tilter. Taking a look at the gold lead right now.
No.
Actually, instead looking at Niles, he actually wants to go on the offensive on a Robbie Bob, but the move speed and the red buff should be able to make it through. A great slam there. It means that Niles is now unstoppable. 5, 2, and 1.
I mean, look at the itemization here. Typically, what we see from these guys, they're able to pick up the Black Cleaver, or some of them are picking up the Trinity Force. This man has gone for the God item. He's picked up the Death Dance for himself. Nobody's really going to be able to itemize into too much healing reduction. We already see the Cillian has kind of itemized into this 800 gold. But, I mean, you take a look across the board, both Robbie Bob and Tony Top, they're going to have to get the Morello Namicon, which neither of them really want to build second. And Hayami still has to spend a lot of gold, which he doesn't have. He's going to have to kind of reach into his pockets, find some futures market value potentially. But 1,100, especially for a behind the curve Jarvan, is a lot of gold to just be spending simply just for a Bramble Vest.
I mean, this is where if I'm Hayami, I gotta go to the bank. I'd be like, yo, item keeper, like, can I take a loan? Can I do something? What's my credit so far? I need some cash and I need some items, because I think in this next team fight, if Hayami isn't getting that gold, if not winning these team fights, he's going to be looking very weak when these team fights start breaking out.
Yeah, take a look at the map right now. We're seeing the members of Mirage move as 5. They actually end up missing the Ash Arrow, so they're trying to look for something on the value. But this is something that we actually took a note of last night versus 100 Thieves, right? They tend to stand around a Cillian, make sure that they're kind of the Cuddle Bear Kog'Maw, sit right around him, make sure that they protect the puppy. And it hasn't looked too good. What ends up happening is you have a massive deficit for Mirage, and Hayami ends up being behind the curve when it comes to experience and gold. You're sharing a bunch of when it comes to, the experience and gold we were talking about. You're sharing that between 3 members now for a single wave. And take a look at this gold. Value is up 70 CS at 19 minutes.
I mean, that's just where you kind of just put the nail on the hammer, right? Especially on a champion that itemizes lethality as well. And he's got to take a look at the gold right here, because 7.6k to 5.8. That's almost a 2k gold lead in just the 80 carries itself here. Not to mention the lethality items are just so damn cheap. It's like an on sale item right now for that item build. And this is the reason why Bars gets banned on red side the entire time. And right now, I think the idea of Mirage to tackle this Vars was a good one, but right now, approach the 20-minute mark. This is where Vars loves being at. 2 items against your opponent, poking him down, nothing, no armor being built up, and you see him. He's trying to be Legolas, snipe these guys out, hit him in the heart, as you said.
He's trying to find the prey piercer bow. He's just trying to find the lucky headshot right there. And honestly, it's one thing to have, you know, an insane amount of gold. It's also one thing to also have insanely gold efficient items. You're talking about the lethality, 2,300 for an Umbral Glaive. This item is insane. Not only that, but it has a lot of hidden power stuck into that passive for clearing out vision. And you take a look on the opposite side here for Wolfie. I mean, he has such gold efficient items. Not only does he have the, you know, the Magi's now, but he also has Athenes and Ardent. So just looking really insane. This 5,000 gold does not speak enough to how far ahead Maryville is, as they're just looking to just kind of just gank surf throughout the waves. They're going from bot lane, clearing that out. They're able to grab the tier 2, and in a kind of a massive swoop of 3 minutes, Maryville able to pick up 3 turrets for themselves, looking just beautiful.
You know, speaking of Iconic, we haven't really shined a light upon him here, but taking a look at his stacks right now, 6 stacks in, and especially in a winning state, this is what Kindred wants to be, knowing that he could just go up, take some of these camps, take some of these marks for themselves as well. And, you know, Iconic 3-0-3 here, kind of the unsung hero right now, just because not a lot of action has been playing around him right now. But honestly, him and Wolfie are right now the most consistent members so far on the Maryville lineup, and it just goes to show these guys haven't taken a death as of yet, pretty active together as a mid-jungle duo, and it's working out for them.
Yeah, one of the things that I would always praise Maryville on earlier on in the Scouting Ground circuit season was Wolfie and Iconic being kind of these, you know, like you were saying, unspoken heroes for this team. Wolfie always having not too many resources taken for themselves, but someone who will never lose you the lane and is a very consistent player. We saw him on Syndra before. He did fantastic. And Iconic earlier on in the season when Kindred was a lot more powerful, we would see things like Graves, the beginning of the Graves meta that we had. This guy was just completely running it down for a lot of teams, just kind of taking them to task and showing them, hey, if you're not willing to play this Trundle Kindred meta, I am going to show you how to play it, both sides of it. And I mean, I cannot speak enough to how highly I've praised Iconic and Wolfie, and I'm glad to see them continuing to kind of play around each other and make sure that they can stay at least to the top of their form as Maryville is looking to siege onto this top turret. Here we go for the engage.
Yeah, they go on the back line here. The Lamp Sprite does manage to save Iconic for just a bit. That means the initial gauge of Mirage did not work, as you see that gigantic shield from Wolfie. That Mantra shield is helping everyone out, but Niles wants to go for the aggressive. He's trying to go in. Tony Top looks for the re-engage, but now look at Niles, a great World Ender, catches 3 of them at the backside, and now Tony Top gets taken out by Wolf. 3 low health bars, now 2 low health bars, now 1 low health bar from Mirage, now 0, a triple kill from Niles, takes it on the top side.
Yeah, 9,000 gold for themselves. They get the ace. They're going to go for the Baron on this play, and beautiful job. I was taking a look at where this fight was going to. We were like, okay, maybe Tony Top, he's found his flank. The ultimate goes completely wide, and again, Robbie Bob's positioning was not up to snuff in this one. We end up seeing Value yet again land a perfect Chain of Corruption. He holds this backline in position, and then like we were saying, we wanted those front-to-back team fights for Maryville. Well, seems like Mirage wanted to gift them on a silver platter. So fantastic job for Maryville.
Now, this is like the big question that I have to ask, right? Because we talk about draft, we talk about the champions that they got, which was the Vars, the Karma, the Kindred. These are champions that just work so well together. If I'm Mirage, I have to come up with a game plan for the next game.
Okay. I mean, the game plan is, you know, make sure you have a winning bot side. I don't know if first picking Ashe in the rotation is necessarily the best part. And honestly, this top lane matchup could have been better. I think we actually want to. I want to take a look at that last fight going up the top side. I'll hold that as potentially looking for an engage onto Hayami. It was a little bit wide. So we're gonna. I want to take a look back at this top side fight. Now we have a little bit of time before this dragon spawn. Take a look at where Value is. We see Tony Top coming in from this flank. And I mean, it just kind of take a look. Robbie Bob gets taken out of the fight so early on, and this re-engage coming in from Niles just lands a massive Darkened Blade third strike, which just obliterates the backline. Hayami tries to lock him down, but even then, Iconic being empowered by Wolfie as well as Niles is just so beautiful. It's exactly what we wanted to see coming out from them. As now we see Maryville back on live, just poking them down, and with Baron looking to push on all 3 waves, looking to break into this base.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, if I'm Maryville University, the siege composition starts coming through. You have Kindred, you have Karma, you have Varus, and then, of course, you have the Lantern to save any one person who kind of steps up a little bit too far to hit a turret. And it's working wonders for them, but now this is the Infernal Soul that Maryville is looking to take right now. And Mirage, they're nowhere close. This is going to be given up to them. When we take a look at that gold lead, it's 11K, not to mention that Infernal Soul and that Baron empowering them. This is honestly looking very grim for Mirage Esports right now.
Looks like they're trying to find something onto Niles. They throw a little bit of a long-range crystal arrow, but ends up going wide yet again. Honestly, I am really afraid. I was talking about Ocean Soul being a lost condition. I had not even thought that potentially Infernal Drake would be the way that Maryville are looking to try and close this out. I mean, you have again, like we were saying, just all around value. This man poking them out, the Infernal Drake's going to provide so much utility. And one of the bigger problems for this draft is look at how short range they are. They can't really interact with that cannon wave that's coming in a lot of those in all of the lanes. And they can't interact with value ever. He's also picked himself up the Banshee's Veil here, and he's just gonna be fully protected. We're looking for a fight now.
Yeah, but already you see everyone going down here. Cillian's already blinking really low. Iconics now in the backside by himself. Niles takes out one, and Iconic takes out the other. Mirage Esports, they are scrambling to make sure they can get out, but Tony Top goes down. Shockwave goes out wide. Rybob goes down. Only Hayami is left. Maryville University, they're going to be taking this game one.
Yeah, they're looking to just completely shatter the base here, and Maryville with an incredibly strong showing, and Mirage still fumbling a little bit in this game one here for the series. You know, I was wondering what was going to happen for this series. Obviously, we still have a few games to go, but you know, I was wondering, hey, Maryville, they've been looking a little bit weak. Is this potentially, you know, the game that Mirage looks to take off of them? And then after last night, I was like, is Mirage actually looking, you know, a little shaky, or was it just the 100 Thieves difference? You know, was it just Kenvi and the squad taking them down? And honestly, I'm still getting a lot of flashes of the Mirage that I'm used to knowing, where Hayami is the key player to activate the early game for them.
This is where I think you just nailed it on the head, right? I think Jaime is the main early game engine for Mirage Esports. And if he does well, then you see what happens. The game can get really close, or they have a chance of winning. But then when Jaime just goes down this far in this match, or just this far in the early game, it just proves so tough for Mirage Esports. And this is where I think Mirage's esports weakness is coming through right now, approaching the end of a lot of these scouting ground circuit leagues here, Upsurge included. And, you know, if I'm Mirage right now, I just have to think of what we can do to kind of circumvent this issue, what we can do to help each other out, and what we can do to kind of just get back in. This is the last line. This is the loser semifinals. If you go out now, that means that you're out of Upsurge, and hopefully Mirage can bounce back.
Yeah, they do have you know, they have 2 more games. I could potentially believe in that reverse sweep, and man, it is just the way that they play from behind is always the same. As soon as Hayami gets behind, it's just sit right on top of a Cillian. We're waiting for a Cillian to get 3 items. Yeah. He either plays the Ashe where he's strong on 2 and 3. We play these late game AD carries. Maybe you would have, you know, opted into an Aphelios matchup, but even that is not looking fantastic considering how readily you were able to just get rid of, you know, not able to pick it up. I wonder if Kalista is even in the wheelhouse here for Mirage. I am a little bit afraid. I'm hoping we see, you know, more proactivity, specifically even for topside. I think Tony Top could be a way for them to look for victories, especially with what we saw in those first 5 minutes.
I mean, Niles did make a lot of mistakes in the early game, especially dying solo against Tony Top here. So now it's still a little bit shaky, but on that defensive end, on that bottom side, honestly, I think that was the time where it just swung everything over to Maryville University, because now he's getting a triple kill on a defensive play, on a play that he actually should have died from. You know, getting 2 kills off of it proves pivotal for them. And I think at that point, Mirage, it was very tough to come back.
Yeah, and I mean, Niles, I will say the most of Maryville, the way that they like to play, this is a team that once they get ahead, they know how to play with that lead and continue to close out the game. When they are behind, plays like that, plays where they're looking a little bit risky under some of those dives, it does not look fantastic. And Mirage, this time around, you give Niles this lead, he is someone who not only is going to push that boundary, but is going to slam it in your face if given the chance, like we saw, like you're saying, in that dive. So again, like we're saying, Niles in the early game is still a massive liability for this team. Thankfully, this time around, it wasn't punished, but I'm still very interested to see Mirage and other teams look to potentially punish the style of play.
All right, well, you nailed it right in the head, Ulk. So we have to go on a quick break and see what happens if Mirage can kind of come back from this game here and see if they can kind of go for that reverse sweep, as you said. But for Maryville University, they only need one more to make sure they make it to losers finals here. So we're going to go to a short break, but when we return, we're going to see game 2 between Mirage Esports and Maryville University. So stick around. Don't touch that browser. We'll be right back.
In the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
And welcome back to the Upsurge Premier League loser semifinals between Maryville University and Mirage Esports. We already saw what happened game one. Mirage Esports wanted to pilot an early game engine off Hayami, but unfortunately failed. And we saw the end of that game. It was a big win for Maryville University.
Yeah, I mean, taking home a pretty massive gold lead for themselves. It was really sad to watch. I have a lot of hope. Me and you both actually have a lot of hope in Mirage to be able to turn this series around. And I'm looking for some changes. I think both of us obviously are. We weren't too happy with how that ended up out through draft and in execution as well. I'm looking for Mirage to, now that they're on blue side, hopefully grab themselves some pretty powerful picks. So now this time around, Maryville, since they're red side, they have the responsibility. You got to pay your taxes. You got to ban Graves. You got to ban the Varus. But I mean, there's a lot of things potentially going through. We have Volibear still on the table that wasn't allowed last time. Syndra as well. It looks like this time we're going to be taking away Volibear.
No, and we already see the draft going on so far. This is where we want to see the game plan change from Mirage, but as we see here, the Ezreal is still up. A lot of teams are valuing a first pick right now, but as we saw yesterday and as we've seen the LPL and the LCK, Ashe is the #1 go-to counter pick so far into this champion. So we have to see if values it, pun intended, for Maryville University, and to see what they want to lock in here. But so far, this is a good change of pace for Mirage.
Yeah, and it gives them a lot more agency. I think on 2 items, they can be a lot more powerful. Like you're saying, the Ashe comes on through. Draft God Chilling Walk has blessed us again with a beautiful red side first pick. And for second pick, I'm a little bit, is Aphelios.
Oh.
Okay, apparently it is Aphelios. We're getting a little bit of a change there. So Draft God, we've been lied to. There was a little bit of blaspheme there. I'm sorry, but looks like even this time at Maryville going to kind of go back to what they found a lot of success on, and Iconic yet again picking up the Kindred.
Definitely, and right now Maryville University have a great competition to kite back. Saw what happened the first game. They picked a competition to move backward. Now Mirage have to see what they can do to kind of answer, because they did try, right? They picked the VAR, they picked the Jarvan 4, they picked the Orion, they picked all these champs to go in, but Mirage, you know what? They want to throw some spice always in a game too for some weird week happening, and instead Mirage is going to be locking in that Gragas and that Yasuo for that jungle in mid lane.
Now look, last night we got the the Zed, and everyone was, popping off. I was really happy to see Robbie Bob on this champion. And his Yasuo is nothing to scoff at. As someone who's seen him play in a lot more of the smaller 1v1 leagues and doing some more random team compositions, every single time I've got to see Robbie Bob on a less coordinated team for Yasuo, he looks fantastic. And Wolfie on the opposite side himself, not a too bad on LeBlanc, but Gragas has been something that has fallen a little bit to the wayside, but has been something I've actually been interested in specifically for Mirage to pick up. I think Hayami could be one of those players that could find a lot of success, especially for the way he likes to play, and especially into this Kindred matchup. I think Mirage have done themselves at least some favors there.
I think you're definitely right. Along with that, Gragas being a traditional counter pick into the Kindred, knowing that you can knock multiple members away from that Lamb's Respite tier, and also Gragas being really fluid for their composition as well. But take a look at the bans right now. Gangplank being removed here, along with the Vlad and the Yuumi. Even though Yuumi has been nerfed patch 10.13, a lot of teams are still valuing it, especially being paired up with the Ezreal, so no surprises there. But right now, it's honestly kind of on Maryville to see what they want to do to answer this Gragas Yasuo.
Yeah, it looks like the typical thing for them is take away these super strong picks. I think obviously Gangplank, like we were saying, comes to mind. For Mirage, take away all of these picks that we've seen Niles perform on. Aatrox is still available, and to someone like Gragas and Yasuo, you do have a lot of melee champions that will kind of fall to the strength of this pick. Maryville, I expect for them to just pick support here, pick something maybe like Thresh, maybe even like we're seeing the Braum here to try and at least prevent some damage, but I think the Braum is what do you think, Chilling Walk, on this Braum? Because I'm not super sold on this.
Honestly, when I look at I always talk about this to other people when they come to drafting. It's like Braum's a great pick when you're a competition that wants to move backward. The issue is that you're also kind of giving a free support pick for Mirage, and with this Wukong being picked up here, for them on the top side. For Tony Top, we haven't seen a lot of Wukong. We didn't see Wukong yesterday for 100 Thieves and Mirage, but now we're going to see that champion. And honestly, this is a great pick. A lot of knockup, allows you to get in there, stops the way Ashe and Kindred want to function. And now they're going to be locking that support with Bard. And right now, this is honestly a really great composition so far from Mirage.
Yeah, yet again, it is another short-range composition, right? Something we had talked about in that last draft, but still, I mean, they have a lot more tools that are accessible to them this time around. I think we're not going to have to wait too many times for Asilian to maybe land an Enchanted Crystal Arrow. This time around, I think Mirage have, like you said, gifted themselves a lot of tools to be able to work with, and man, we're just going for the full area ultimates. We got the Kindred, we got the Camille. Gragas, just throw an explosive task right up in there and just kind of ruin the whole thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? We take a look at Aphelios, because remember that Ashe is Aphelios, and we take a look at the Bromir, two low mobility champions for the background, and if you nullify them, it's going to be pretty tough for their end. Of course, you guys do see the Aphelios. For us, we see the Ashe, so we have to be mindful of that. But that's where I think it's really good. Mirage have a lot of ways to just kind of move forward. And again, even if they do get flanked, they do have that bar portal to kind of get out of dodge as well. So for Mirage Esports, this is a composition that's definitely working out for them, and I want to see them succeed in this game too.
Yeah, and I'm really actually interested yet again in this Tony Top matchup. Wukong has been making some plays in topside. He's been looking pretty strong, all things considered. And Niles has not been afraid to take this Camille matchup multiple times. He's found himself in this position. I think of other top laners like Fire Theft for Supernova Dark Matter, who's been not afraid to pick up this champion. I think in certain positions it's super strong. I'm a little rusty on my Wukong Camille matchup. I'll be 100% honest. But I can't imagine that Wukong is going to have a fun day versus Camille, at least early on, especially with Kindred and how we've seen Iconic just farming and ravaging through his jungle. Topside has to be a massive focus for both of these players.
However, the one thing we have to keep in mind is that Mirage's early game engine is still based on Hayami. It's still based on how he functions here, because if Hayami doesn't get his teammates rolling, this is where we see that weakness come through from 100 Thieves. Next, from their composition overall, and of course, the composition, of course, is full AD, which means that, we haven't seen Ezreal build a lot of AP in their kit, but I think this is a good time for Ascending to kind of delve into that AP build here, picking up that Liandry's Torment for the Ezreal, picking up some, maybe picking up that Hourglass as well, knowing that LeBlanc and Camille are going to want to jump in onto him as well. So, we're going to see how Mirage plays out, but I think this is a good time that we do see a little bit of that hybrid Ezreal come through.
Yeah, and again, like you were saying, a lot of Mirage in the early game, in these first 3 picks, has been just ultra fluid. It allows for them to have a little bit more flexibility to the draft later on. They have their great picks here for Bard and for Wukong. They've allowed themselves to have this, early game, but honestly, I'm still not sold. Maryville need to find some kind of early game success for themselves. I'm looking for Wolfie to yet again have an insane LeBlanc early on in the scouting ground circuit. We've seen this guy play this LeBlanc, and he just immediately moves into the side lane. Maryville have provided themselves with a really strong 1-3-1, but I can't imagine that Mirage are going to be looking that they have this amazing kind of death squad if they want to roam through river and just take control of objective pits.
I mean, you said it. Wolfie's going to be the main person who's going to be the early game engine for Maryville. It's going to be on him to see if he can kind of snowball and impact the map and possibly tackle Hayami, because knowing that we see Gragas in the game right now, doesn't really build tank, builds pretty much full AP in his kit here. If not that, building that health stacking items, that Morello Namakon, that Liandry's Torment for that kit. So that's one thing that we're going to have to pay attention for. But right now, I like this game plan from Mirage, and I just really want to see them succeed, because I don't want them to be, going after that last match from yesterday, going into this match and just kind of taking another 0-2. That's a big mental break for them.
Yeah, especially for just how young some of these members are. Obviously, a lot of people have their eyes on Asilian to be that, that Wunder, the Wonder Kid, to just sit in bot lane. You have a super young 15-year-old. I have to imagine that getting not only, destroyed by 100 Thieves, that's a kind of like an expected matchup, but coming in, you're like, okay, we have to be able to win these. And for Mirage, I'm looking, again, we were talking about Hayami, yes, but Asilian needs to step up. I think that there have been a couple of times where his positioning has been a little bit questionable. It is something, a little bit of a risk for those high highs and those low lows, but Asilian needs to sharpen up, and a lot of those fights in that last game were ended very quickly with just where he was standing and making sure that, hey, as soon as the fight starts, guys, I'm 20% HP. I really can't maximize my DPS output.
All right, so right now we take a look at this game here. The big question right now is, can Mirage come back and get this game through, or can Maryville come back here? And before we go on this quick break here, we have to give some word towards our sponsor, Kono, because if you are looking to take your game to the next level, it all starts with your peripherals, from keyboards to keycaps, from keyboards to keypads, mice and more. Our friends at Kono have got you covered. Kono works for the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you some of the best gaming peripherals around. Kono has been a huge supporters of us here at Upsurge and have made generous contributions to our prize pools. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out the Hexgears X-1 RGB low profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. And if you use a discount code UpsurgeGG, you get 7% off your first order. And for more information, head over to kono.store to check out all they have to offer. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. That being said, going to short break. We'll see you at game 2.
And I know it's me that followed you in blind. I could say that you didn't need, but you wanted me. Maybe I was wrong, even once wasn't anything. So if we had another chance, I would never let you steal my plans. Bring me back to life. Don't dig deep like you would have a clue. All I see is how I was a fool to see my heart skip beats. Thinking about you. Whoa. I could say that you didn't need, but you wanted me. Maybe I was wrong, even once wasn't anything. Yeah, I could say that you didn't need any part of me. Yeah, maybe it's not me, you should be the one on your knees. So if we had another chance, I would never let you steal my plans. Bring me If we had another chance, I would never let you steal my glance. Bring me back to life. If we had another chance, I would never let you steal my glance. Bring me back to life.
welcome back to game 2 of Maryville University against Mirage Esports. So might have a little bit of a swap here because Ulk had some technical difficulties. So now we're gonna bring in, our producer for tonight's Hypertension, gonna be rocking it with color commentary by my side. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing okay, honestly. Wasn't expecting to cast tonight, but hey, it's a good thing that your producer knows how to cast, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, why not, right? That's the good thing of when you have a producer who knows how to rock the mic, and that's what's gonna happen. Because you know what? See what happens going to game 2, and then maybe game 3 if Mirage wins. That means that Ulk can come back in.
Yes, absolutely. And in the meantime, though, I do want to talk a little bit about these drafts, and I want to talk about one thing about them that I necessarily did not like from Maryville's thing. One thing y'all were mentioning, and that I really kind of agree with this. I'm not the biggest fan of the Braum pick in this situation. I feel like there are other supports that could better deny the very, very, very obvious Yasuo knockup composition. Like, you had the Yasuo, you had the Ezreal, you had the Gragas, and then, like, you particularly could have had something like one pick that we mentioned was a Galio. You mentioned a Zillion, but I'm not as fond of Zillion in this meta, personally. I think another one could have been a Leona. I do not remember off the top of my head whether or not Leona was banned, but I think it still could have been a great situation for a support that does a little bit better at ranged denial as opposed to the Glacial Fissure, which does have that long cast time.
Definitely understand, but have to see what happens here when it comes to Maryville University and how they want to do it, because right now the early game engine is gonna be on Wolf to see if he can get an early game snowball off of Iconic as well. Iconic did have a good performance. Usually we credit Iconic and Wolfie to be the pillars for Maryville University. That's going to be the goal here, to make sure that they are going to be the ones who are going to be consistent for their roster.
Yeah, and we talked about, I'll say a little bit last game. Sorry, for those of you, again, I did not really expect to cast tonight, so I'm still trying to get my bearings tonight, but you did talk about how, like, Niles is going to be the keep-in for Maryville. We got value down there. On the flip side, I would like to see a game where Mirage don't pivot on Asilian nearly as much, because I have been seeing a little bit too much of that lately. And as a result, they've just kind of set up these games where other teams have decided to just shut down Asilian because they've already cut down Hiyami. And that's leaving an option where your AD carry can't really carry there. I'm going to compare it to, like, double lipped on old CLG, like 2014 CLG, where the team was just absolutely terrible before X-Mythic.
Definitely right here on that end, but we take a look at the top side. Looks like Iconic gets around the corner. Tony Top is in a pretty sticky situation in enemy territory, and with Iconic being around means that Tony Top is going to be fighting a 1v2. The Mounting Jet should be able to take it, and it does. That is the first mark by Hiyami. Is here for the return gank. Does take the 1-for-1 in the jungle matchup, but Iconic is ranged, but still 1-for-1 so far for both sides.
Yeah, nice little flash body slam there from the side of Mirage there. I am very, very, very happy that he managed to pick up something on the back end, because otherwise that would have just been a very silver lining, just gift wrapped situation there over to Maryville. You can't let their composition get ahead in the early game without punishing it on the back end. Yours has a very powerful mid-late game spike here with that Yasuo, with that Ezreal, with that Wukong. So you need to be able to get these champions like the Gragas and the Yasuo ahead early so they can skirmish come that mid-game.
Skirmishing it is, and so far Hiyami actually, outside of just going for that counter gank, hasn't looked for anything super aggressive compared to game 1. So I like this little change of what Hiyami has done, playing a little bit more slow, a little bit more towards the speed of his team, and being mindful of what his team can do with them, especially in this jungle matchup. But right now the game is still pretty slow. We're just focusing on laning and seeing how well these lanes are, as Niles is stacking a pretty solid wave on the top side.
Yeah, and this is kind of a situation where you can see how this matchup is really skill. As someone, I play a lot of Wukong, actually. You might not think it, but yes, there is another account that I used to play champions like that. And this is one of those matchups where almost entirely comes down to the skill for me. In laning, I feel like both of them have a strong enough power, but again, situations like this where you have the clone can just absolutely give Wukong the advantage. But as soon as you hit 6, it becomes hard for that Camille to lose because of the Hextech Ultimatum, revealing which one is the clone. Because remember, there are visible tethers on the Hextech Ultimatum. If they disappear, you know the clone is the only thing visible.
great key point when it comes to those mechanics, Hyper, as we have to see what Tony Top and Niles can do. And keep in mind that Niles did opt in for this matchup. Usually when we think about it historically, Wukong did have the early game advantage when it comes to this matchup. And of course, Camille does outscale. But honestly, big question right now is how this team comp is going to function on the side of Maryville, because, you know, we were talking about draft a little bit earlier, and for me, I'm actually not the big fan of LeBlanc Pink because it just pivots your composition forward, and that's where I think, you know, you brought the Braum, and I agree with the Braum pick as well, but this is where I think teams need to just kind of understand what they're pivoting for and how they're pivoting, and we're going to have to see what Maryville does when they're working around this LeBlanc Red 3 and then this Braum Red 4.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily dislike the LeBlanc here. I think it's a good pocket pick for Shady. The matchup isn't as good as what you could have gotten, but at the same time, if your player feels comfortable in that situation, you as a former coach, like, you know, you take what a player is comfortable with as opposed to a champion that they're not, particularly if they say it's like, hey, I can do this matchup with the X champion. You can take it.
Then that's where you be a very strict coach and be like, you know what? Nope, I'm picking for you. It don't matter what you say. If you pick, I'm gonna pick this because this is how you win draft. And that's what sometimes, you know, sometimes coaches have to do that. You know, kind of wish coaches can do that kind of saying sometimes to their players, but you know, that's just me.
Yeah, that does actually kind of, you know, happen a little bit there. But now we are looking like it's gonna be a dive into the top lane.
Yep, Niles is here. Iconic is here as well. Gonna see if they can get on to Tony Top. Tony Top hits the S key, faking it, but I think that Mono Dread will stay here, but Wolfie is here for that gank. Now 3 of Maryville is on the top side, playing around this dive, but now here comes the Cyclone, knocks up 2, but another Cyclone comes through, and good juggle aggro from the turret means that Tony Top will go down at the hands of Wolfie.
Yeah, and that's the main point I was going to bring up, is that the juggling of aggro there by the side of Maryville University was frankly immaculate. They made sure that every single time somebody got anywhere remotely low, that the highest HP person was the one tanking tower. Wolfie tanked it near the end because he was the one who was able to, you know, get out without much damage. He's the only one that didn't get hit by the Cyclone. So very good prioritization of positioning by Maryville. It left them with that extra kill on now the LeBlanc as well. So honestly, just great situation for the boys in red.
I think that's one of the things that what Maryville does have when it comes to how well they play, especially when push comes to shove. They usually like to play with a lot of discipline and play with a lot of patience when it comes to these games here. And I think that's a good sign, especially on that dive, because I know that some teams, you know, just might get, you know, over aggressive or, you know, pull the trigger a little bit too quick here. But that's a really good display of discipline, and that's something that I want to push forward. But now approaching the 8-minute mark here, off that kill means it's only a 500 gold lead in favor for Maryville University currently.
Yeah, it's a very small gold lead, but at the same time, with either of these compositions, a very small gold lead could actually balloon out of control. It's really going to come down to this mid-game here with the power of both of these. Particularly, the ultimates that I'm looking for are not only the explosive cast, but also that Cyclone in the skirmishes. I'm also looking for that Hextech Ultimatum, and mainly the Moonlight Vigil. Aphelios, Mr. 200 Years, is still one of the strongest champions in the game, so you have to worry about his damage at every single stage. I mean, he has just a BF sword, and he did that with like 3 auto attacks.
Yeah, that's where it gets tougher. But, you know, Celine's Mana Muna is a lot cheaper compared to the Infinity Edge here. And, you know, when we take a look at 100 Thieves and Mirage last time, Celine was on the back foot when playing the Aphelios Ezreal matchup, and honestly was down an item and a half. So to see how the farming works out. As we take a look at the farm score, Rybob's doing a great job, 86 TS to 62 so far in the mid lane.
Yeah, very much Robbie Bob favored, but at the same time, that's more or less because Wolfie has been roaming a lot more. It's been given, I'd say lane's been kind of handed over to him because Wolfie knows that on that LeBlanc, you don't exactly have to win the lane to still be able to contribute like you do on the Yasuo. He can kind of roam around a lot more easily and contribute a lot more here, because here we go, dive in the top lane.
Actually, instead of using the Rift Herald, but with this Rift Herald means it's going to be another aggro. The Cycle comes in and hit both of them as Iconic and Niles are looking to get out. That's one Cyclone being used as Iconic's looking to go for the chase, but because pushing Tony Top out of the lane means that this top tier 1 is going to be going down on the other side, though. Hayami did take the dragon for themselves.
I'm much more of a fan of taking first tower as opposed to first dragon, particularly when it is the Mountain Drake, which in my opinion is probably one of the weakest of the single Drake. It's the single weakest dragon to only get one of. It just, the gold difference that you get over the game as a whole is so much more for that first brick. And I feel like by prioritizing too much time away from it, you just give up so much.
Definitely right here, but right now we just have to see what Niles can do, because I think this is a game where Niles, didn't lose out in any early game deaths here, playing lane pretty well so far, and of course Iconic putting some resources from his jungle side to his fellow top laner. So I think this is a game where Niles, if he wants to show himself, this is a good game to do so.
Yeah, especially because that Camille is that much more of that skirmisher, that 1v1, the split pusher, that champion, we always said, as my mentor returned to love to say, Niles ends games. This is very much a Niles ends games champion, as opposed to the Wukong, which is a much better team fighter and a much better setup for the Yasuo. Because right here, he actually has the advantage now that he has the Hextech Ultimatum.
Yeah, he also has that Sheen and that Phage as well, and there it is. It's a one-on-one. Now he's gonna see if he can get it, but the ultimate from Miss will be able to stop the one-on-two. But here comes the backup. Hayami is here. The Dark Harvest, as we mentioned, is gonna be taking him out, and Hayami picks up a kill. The backup comes in ready.
Yeah, and that was just a great rotation over from Mirage. They knew that Niles was going to go in there. So in return, they made sure to buy as much time for them to get there as possible. Great Tempered Fate, great for Tony Top to get right in the middle of it too, forcing Niles to either go in or have to leave. And now, once again, Iconic pressuring out Hayami.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cost of, helping out your top laner that is, pretty down with that turret before 14 minutes, and along with that being sitting 0 and 2, and, Kindred, when it comes to clearing, does have a pretty good matchup against Hayami outside of, approaching team fights, as we see both junglers on this bottom side. Looks like he might want to create some action as the stun does land, but the portal should be able to get him out. The root does land to a Cillion, but so far, it's going to be at a standstill. Teams are just trading back and forth.
Wolfie?
Wolfie, I'm not too sure if that's what you wanted, and instead you're going to get a big old barrel into the face from Hayami, picking up his 3rd kill in the game.
Yeah, they kind of bit off more than they could chew there. That was not, I think, how they wanted that situation to go, but people often forget how much burst damage the Gragas can do right after he gets the Rune Glaive. Nobody started to build up their resistances, so he can just chunk, and let's get 2 on the top side, even at 0-2, but right now, good setup for Mirage. They're closing that gold lead little by little.
Taking a look at the gold lead. Right now, it's only a 7k gold lead that separates both these teams, approaching 13 minutes right now. And honestly, got to take a look at the marks of what Iconic has. And so far, he only has 3. So only needs 1 more mark to make sure he gets his 4th. And that's usually where Kindred starts getting a lot of value. He is on the top side, help out nods if Tony Top wants to play for that 101. But so far, even though Maryville has taken that top tier 1, it's still kind of a standstill.
It's still kind of a standstill, but you have to look at where the kills and where the priority in this game has gone. Right now, Iconic and Hayami are basically at very similar gold levels. Actually, no. Iconic is about 700 gold ahead. So even despite the amount of kills that they've given over to Hayami, there's still that inherent jungle advantage for Maryville's side. They have it where they need it. You want this Kindred to bully the Gragas out. So that way, even with the 3 kills, he's still at the mercy of Lamb and Wolf.
When we take a look at Mirage, Hayami is the early game engine. I think this is a good point that Hayami has gotten those 3 kills here, because when he has those kills, he definitely wants to fight and create action around his team. And with this second Drake coming up real soon, it is going to be the Inferno Drake here, as 30 seconds are coming down. The resets are coming for Mirage, and this means that, this could be the fight of what Mirage is looking for.
Yeah, but look at the way that Maryville has started to rotate. I'm betting that they'll be the ones who get that first crack at the dragon, just because of the way that they are establishing vision, the way that they are denying vision, and that the way that they are rotating their members around to have 4 people there.
First step going in, and of course the bottom tier 1 falling from Mirage as the explosive college goes in. Unfortunately, doesn't push Wolfie into Robbie Bob's last breath, and because of that's a big core ultimate being down for just 1. With that ultimate being gone, Maryville University, they're looking to start this dragon.
Yeah, and that's one of your primary engage tools. Other than the Cyclone, you're going to go in off the explosive cask. And with that down, you really do have to contest the dragon. And that, again, that's just good vision, good foresight, and good macro rotations from the side of Maryville. Exactly as we predicted.
honestly, I just want Mirage to just walk together as a unit and potentially have Tony Top sit at the flank next time when these objectives are coming out. We saw when we take a look at 100 Thieves versus Mirage, 100 Thieves are always at the objective first, always a minute ahead, and I think Mirage, they're getting caught out, especially looking for those team-wide resets for these objectives, and this is where it actually might cost them.
Yeah, and this is a much worse situation here for Niles. He's gonna get hit.
Oh, the last breath comes out. The Hextech ultimatum lands onto Robbie Bot, but the backup from Miss means that the stun is going to land. Even if you flash over the wall, Hayami gets the kill with the W, and that means it's a 4-0 on that Gragas.
Yeah, and again, they're just trying to bully Niles, make sure that he cannot have the impact that he did the last game on the Aatrox. And his split push power is going to be absolutely key to the composition of Maryville University. But the problem for Mirage is that they're not getting Tony Top the same level of investment as they are into denying it from Niles. He's still down on Niles, I believe, by about, that's about 700 gold, despite a less than 10 CS differential. And where that comes down to is that in the split push situations, Niles will still be able to absolutely dominate Tony Top in the lane.
You already see Niles here. Picked up that Triforce on that death respawn, so you can probably take these one-on-ones now against Tony Top if they were to meet, and the 1-3-1 is now commencing for Maryville University, and to see what they can do here is they may have spot Tony Top, or if not that, I don't think they want to take a fight in this jungle when they could get choked out.
I'm going to make a bold prediction here in that within the next 2 or 3 minutes, if Tony Top and Niles are in the same lane, Niles is going to solo kill Tony Top. I'm just going to guess that with like the specific champions that we have in this game, combined with the way that the goals are at and where the item spikes are. Currently, that Wukong is on a very weak point in terms of items, whereas the Camille is very strong right now. And as you see, Tony Top is starting to make it towards top lane. If he does, I think he's a dead man.
All right, you guys heard it here. Twitch chat. Is Hyper a prophet when it comes to it? But before I get to that, Iconic looks to go and throw some trading over to Mist and see if they can control this river on the bottom side, even though there's no objective coming up for the next 2 minutes. So surprised to see, but this is Maryville. They're operating on that 1-3-1. It's working out so far, especially for Niles on the top side.
For Niles here on the top side, but again, here we go. Like I said, that they're in the lane together. Niles has this.
He wants to find it. He does get the hook shot here. Tony Top is forced to use that Cyclone, but it doesn't matter. The 2 minutes are actually up. Instead of that thing, it was a 1 minute, but let's take a look at the bot side because Rybob is getting hit. The last breath only hits on one on Shady. Iconic still has that Lancer Spite because there's no sort of knockback going in. A good golden hour from the ultimate from Miss is going to stop any sort of engage so far. So at the end of the day, it's a 1-0 for Niles.
Yeah, and again, he gets the tower too. Like I said, it's just the power breakpoints of the Camille versus the Wukong in terms of items, levels, and gold. It was just so in favor of the Camille that there was no chance of Tony Top surviving as soon as he used his clone. That clone is the only way that he can survive, but it is very smart by Niles to make sure that he is baiting the clone very early on, going in for the hookshot afterwards, and then the Hextech ultimatum, creating the perfect CC chain to win these trades.
You know, even though Mirage has a really good composition when functioning together, Maryville University, the commencing on the 1-3-1 means that these guys don't get to operate together as a team. Wolf does lose his flash because of Mist and Rybob being there, but still, the more this 1-3-1 goes on, the less it gives Mirage an opportunity to work together as a 5-man unit.
Yeah, because also at this point, even if you do send the Wukong off into a team fight, making sure that you do win the 5v4, Niles will take a tower on the side. That's the danger that Camille presents, even at 1-3-2. I believe he's still one of the highest gold members in this game. He actually has the most gold out of anyone in this game. That's because of how much solo gold, how much tower gold, and how much priority he has had versus what they have given over to Tony Top versus taking in the form of putting it into Hayami's Gragas. And I don't like the Black Claver. I hope that really wasn't it coming, but it was. I don't like the Black Cleaver in this matchup because it just provides so much less power in terms of the skirmish and the 1v1 in the split push. Generally, as the Wukong, yes, it will help a little bit in team fights, but that's a very mobile comp on the side of Maryville. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just so tough as Mist is going to get caught out and get stunned up for the rest of the team. As Yami looking to get that body slam, but Shady throwing up the shield means that everyone else from Mirage has to get out. Mist does go down through that portal, and because that one person goes down, it means that Maryville University, they're going to look to take this Ocean Drake.
Yeah, and if they do start to stack up the dragons for the Ocean Soul, this is going to be a very, very dangerous situation for the side of Mirage. But right now, Maryville are actually peaking at this point in the game. So if they don't win off of the Nile split push, eventually they're going to just get outscaled in the team fights. That's the bad thing.
Speaking of team fights, a great explosive cast into the last press is going to instantly delete Iconic. Shady's going to be using the ultimate, but it doesn't matter as Robibot picks up another kill for himself here. A great catch from Mirage.
Yeah, popped like a zit. Iconic and Shady go down, and that means I don't think they'll actually be able to contest for the Baron quite yet, especially because they know that there is Niles on the side lane, plus Value is here with the Moonlight Vigil. This is dangerous. Oh!
Great pull here, but that means that Wolfie is going to have to see if he can deter, but Mist doesn't manage to win the 101, but this means that this is going to be so good for Maryville University. Niles did TP in, he is able to fight this, but with Mirage pulling out from this Baron, means that the window opportunity that they had is now gone.
Yeah, again, that opportunity is just gone because, like I said, as soon as Value has that Moonlight Vigil with the Infernum, when you're in the Baron Pit, that's like the best time to get that Infernum Moonlight Vigil because you know it's going to hit every single person. And by damn it did. It chunked down Hiyami, it chunked down Asilian, Robbie Bop. Everybody lost so much life off of that.
You know, the one thing that's been correct so far. Actually, before I get to that, Niles, I don't know if you want to face it into two people, man. Oh, that's a tilter.
Yeah, and again, even though you're doing this, it's really still just delaying Maryville, and it is doing so much better for Mirage. I mean, Niles, again, he can split push all day, but at the same time, you're starting to hit those break points on the side of Mirage. You have the 100% crit on the Yasuo now. You have the 2 items on the Gragas. You have the 2 items on the Ezreal. And you're starting to get that first full non-support item on the Bard. This is going to be a very dangerous situation if Maryville do decide to take a full 5-on-5, because if they take it, they're going to lose it.
Yeah, but right now they're actually kind of sitting on a ward here. They have fought out Hiyami as Shady and Iconic look to fight a 2 versus 2 against the jungle and support matchup, but a great tempered phase is going to catch 2 of them. With this here, it's a 4 versus 3. Mirage has a number advantage. They're going to see if they can pellet down Shady with those mythic shots here. A trade overall, but both teams decide to back off as a mid-tier 1 for Mirage falls down to a value.
Yeah, again, good gold net gain by the side of Maryville, but I don't think you're at a point where you should be taking those kind of situations in the first place. Really, you do need to zone people, but that's all you can really do right now. Taking those fights just creates an unnecessary risk for your team at the moment in terms of those big multi-man melees. You really need to get those catches and get the 1 or 2 people down. That way you have the numbers advantage.
As you see here, 4 members of Mirage are sitting in the mid lane as Tony Top is now sitting on the bottom side to make sure he can handle against Niles on the split push. But keep in mind, Tony Top has that teleport, Niles does not. The mid-tier 1 is now under fire for Mirage, and looks like they actually may have found Iconic on the flank. Wolfie's going to see if he can get the other flank as well, but Iconic is unable to throw down the Lamb's Respite. That means that Maryville University has to get out. The Lamb's Respite catches Shady on the backside. Exhaust comes down, but one person going down means that Maryville University, they have to get out of dodge. Knockup goes on a Wolfie. That's 2 members being down. Jungler, 25 seconds left. This might be the Baron pull that they are trying to make for.
Oh, it's absolutely going to be the Baron here. This is going to be a perfect situation for Mirage to come over and set up, because while the side of Maryville does have a lot of pushing power in the side lane, they don't have that lot of team fighting power, and once they get caught, it was really done for, and they don't have a lot of long-range wave clear. It's going to be so dangerous for them to walk up and to clear these waves. It's so sketchy here for Maryville. This game is on a knife's edge, and right now, the tip of the knife is starting to lean the way of Mirage.
Just take a look at the gold lead right now, 40.7 to 41.2. Before that Baron, they were down 3K, and that basically just equalized everything from those 2 kills and that Baron itself. taking a look at the items right now, Mirage Esports, they're all hitting that two-item threshold, and this is where it's going to be looking good for them as the next dragon is coming up in the next 20 seconds here. They're going to want to fight for this because if Maryville takes it, that's going to be soul point for them.
Yeah, it absolutely will. But at the same time, it is Mirage who have the angle on the Drake. They have the members around, and there's no real avenue of attack from Maryville. So this Drake should 100% be onto the side of Mirage. But the only downside I see to it is that they are burning time in their Baron. Realistically, this should only be a two-man Drake. There's no reason for Yasuo to be here. He should continuously be pushing in the mid lane, making sure that that wave is being pushed out, get some more advantage by having the lanes in your favor, like the Wukong is doing in the bottom lane.
Honestly, Baron is a great way to stop 1-3-1s just because of how empowered you make your team. You know, of course, when you're sitting on 1-3-1, you actually kind of punish the way they want to move, as you already see 4 members on the bottom side for Mirage. But on the top side, Niles and Wolfie are going to be doing a 2-man mission for the top inhibitor turret.
This is the base race. Maryville loses.
Yeah, Maryville might just lose a space race if they want to continue forward. But, you know, it's 5 people on the bottom side, along with the True Shot Barrage to delay any sort of it. But this is a game of chicken right now. I'm not too sure what they want to do.
Right now, it looks like they're wanting to lose an inhibitor. That's a Nexus tower about to fall.
Yeah, but this is the fight that comes through. Cyclone does get used. Iconic is throwing a lot of damage on a miss right now. Cillian actually Arcane shifts forward. Another knockup on a Shady, but Tony
that's a perfect
goes
hit.
down. Throwing the explosive cast means that everyone else is going to have to see if they can get any more. Cillian has to flash away from the Winter's Bite. Iconic going to see if he can take one more. But look at the bottom side. Now is actually going to see if he can try to end the game as Maryville University are trying to go for the chase down. Now Cillian should be the one who goes down right with that last TTR, and he does. But now Niles in a 1v2 fighting Rybob and missed. Honestly, that's a 3-for-1 trade so far.
Yeah, and again, Niles ends games. He is so powerful on this Camille. He has the split push. While you were running away, you left him in the base. This was actually a perfect execution from Maryville to make sure that they traded everything, because they actually come out on top in the end. They may have, like, overall, in terms of like the play, you may think, oh, they lost more gold. No, they actually lost the same amount of towers as did Mirage there, because they also took that Nexus tower, and that is so much more important than those towers in the bottom lane all the way up to the inhibitor tower.
You know, you mentioned about the low range composition of what Mirage has here, and I think when they were trying to push down the Nexus turret, it kind of just goes to show Wolfie went for that double distortion, did a lot of damage because of the distance she can interact with Mirage, and that's honestly what kind of turned their fight, and that's honestly what caused them to retreat. And you know, and with Mirage on the back foot now, it's going to be pretty scary when approaching these fights.
Yeah, and right now Mirage, this is the point in the game where they're actually starting to fall off a little bit. Yes, I said that they do scale later, but one thing to note is that neither team has a true tank, except for that sort of tank in the Braum. This Gragas is actually incredibly squishy compared to that Braum even, or even this Bard of Mist. This Bard is the tankiest member on Mirage, so if that is going to be a team fight started from Mirage, it very quickly could turn into a Maryville win if they don't set up their ultimates and their execution properly. As you said, this is very scary for Mirage, and if they're not careful, it could see them get 2-0'd.
One composition that wants to team fight, the other composition wants to 1-3-1. Both these compositions inherently counter each other, and that means that the ease of execution wants to go through. You know, Wolfie and Niles have been holding each other's hands so far in both side lanes. Knowing that top lane inhibitor is down, you know, why not have both split pushes be in that same lane? Use that inhibitor as your 6th man, and honestly, I definitely like Maryville's approach to this 1-3-1.
Yeah, again, they have been playing the 1-3-1 very well because it is their bread and butter. Overall, Maryville as a team has been shown to be arguably the second best 1-3-1 team in all of North American amateur scene, even back to like their collegiate championship days back in 2019 very early. And this is because of the fact that they have such powerful solo laners here, but now it's a flank.
Yeah, TP from Tony Top onto the Pixel means that he wants to catch out Iconic, forced to use that Lamb's Respite under that Cyclone and Last Breath. See if Iconic
this is actually not good for Mirage.
He actually makes it out alive. Hayami goes down from Wolfie, even though he goes golden. That's a 1-for-1 so far for both teams.
Yeah, again, this is not, but I don't think it's quite done yet. We'll see here. Okay, now they're disengaging. But yeah, like I said, it's Mirage took that. As soon as the explosive cask was used, there went your only way of really denying the Lamb's respite from extending the fight long enough for Maryville to close. And even then, that was only a 4v5. Niles was nowhere to be seen in that fight. If he joins on the backside of a fight, that could be a super dangerous situation, because I think he could absolutely half health Hiyami if given the opportunity.
So dangerous here. You already see Hiyami just getting blown up from Wolfie from that burst here, and also what caused him to get deleted. Didn't even have a chance to use that hourglass. So this is all on a knife's edge hyper. I definitely enjoy Mirage kind of, picking back up their form, having some fight left in them. Wolfie trying to see if he can find a solo kill, but doesn't land the chain. So good positioning from them. And, Mirage, again, we just have to see them get in that 5-on-5 team fight. Make sure they get that flank off. Maryville University, they're definitely being mindful of the way Mirage wants to win.
And I think Maryville actually are going to be the ones who are going to start to pick up this Drake here in a second, because the vision is kind of scattered here and it's being cleared very easily by the side of Maryville. Look at the teleport going in. They're going to have to either give this dragon up, or they will lose their base.
That was a double TP from Maryville University on the top side, and now Mirage Esports, they have to make an error, and looks like they already did. Unfortunately, giving up that Ocean Drake means that that's sole point for them. A great play from Maryville.
Yeah, overall, very good macro plays, pulling like that old CLG strat. Now, Wolfie!
Whoa, Wolf, you just got deleted from Hiyami. Good lord, that's the AP Gragas that we're talking about. And that's what's going to happen, but Mist might be caught out. Looks like he won't be, as now you see Mirage Esports looking to fight mid lane. Actually, looks like they all want to fight right now as a Temper Fate cast back on two.
Maryville wins this.
Shady's going to be the Guardian here, but Robbie Bob, see if he can land that knock. If he doesn't, now he's trying to see if they can catch. And this is a great push and pull from both teams here. Who can land what skill? Who can land the hard CC? No one is landing it so far, but now the hook check goes on to Robbie Bob. No one can back him up. Mirage Esports, one of their core members is down. The second core member is going to be falling down. Tony Top coming in for the flank. Now is on the backside onto Hiyami. Hiyami goes down. Value is now trying to see if he can hit down to Cillian. Lance Respite is not going to mean that anyone from Maryville University is going to go down. That is 4 members gone from Mirage.
All right, Maryville, when I said that you win this, I didn't know that meant that you stomp that fight. Holy crap, such good dancing around the fight by the side of Maryville. They made sure to have value in every single situation, every single place that he needed to be to perfectly execute that fight. Great timing of the ultimates from Maryville. They made sure to bait everything from Mirage. By taking out Robbie Bob at the beginning, you cut about half the damage that this team could really bring to bat. And as a result, you are able to take the Baron Nashor.
I mean, Hyper, you already spoke about this earlier in the game, that there's no source of engage from Mirage Esports outside of that Cyclone. It's outside of that explosive cast. Keep in mind, Hami used that explosive cast to take down Wolfie, but because Tony Top was nowhere near that fight, they had to depend on some sort of CC to land, and nothing stuck. They're trying to shoot that target, no headshots going in, and because of that, it cost them. Look at the gold lead right now. 5K gold lead now in favor for Maryville University. Sole point for them as well. Next Dragon's coming up in 3 minutes. Around that time, Baron's going to end. This might be pretty tough for Mirage to come back from.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen, guys, there's actually a 20-second gap between when the Baron goes down and when the Dragon comes up. But on the side of Maryville, I think that they should at least be able to take an inhibitor off of this situation. If they don't, then that is a failure to execute their composition properly, but it would be a failure that we have not seen thus far from Maryville. Thus far, as I said, we've seen Niles, despite being set so far behind, he's been great in the split push, and as has Wolfie. But Iconic, I don't think he's in as... Actually, he might be dead.
Temper Fate does land on Iconic. He does have that Lamb's Respite, but all that chain CC means that he gets shut down by Robbie Bob. That's a lot of gold being picked up for him. A great catch for Mirage.
Yeah, great catch for Mirage, as you said, but it doesn't really do anything at the moment. It's not like you're picking up Wolfie. It's not like you're picking up Niles. It's not like you're picking up a value play yet, but now you might have picked up Niles.
Uh-oh, big Naga comes in. The explosive cast does knock Niles away into the team here. Hayami using that hourglass to make sure he stays golden. Shutdown goes over to Cillian. That's 1 kill for Mirage Esports. Tony Top does have that flank. He has that flash. Does he want to go for it? No. Mirage, they pull out. They're going to take that kill.
Yeah, and at this point, we might be looking towards a 40-minute game because nobody's really able to get any meaningful kills and turn anything off of it because of the way that Maryville has positioned the waves and because of the way that everyone is taking these fights. I mean, right now, this is a point where you can just stall if you're either team. You have to focus either on taking the Drake or taking the Baron that is coming up soon. That's really your only avenue from here on out after this Baron buff expires here in about 60 seconds.
you know, the biggest thing that I want to criticize from Mirage Esports so far from yesterday and today is that they were always late for these objectives. 100 Thieves next, abuse them for it. Maryville has been abusing a little bit of that fact as well. I want to see Mirage make sure they get that team-wide reset, get to that objective first, and make sure that they're forcing Maryville to walk in, because if they don't, that Ocean Soul might be going over to Maryville. That Baron might be going to Maryville. They have to be there first at all times from this point onwards.
So it does look like the Baron will go down without an inhibitor being taken, which again, I feel like that was more of a great play by Mirage. I think I spoke too soon earlier when I said it was going to be a failure on Maryville to execute their composition. That pick onto Iconic and follow-up pick onto Niles just really tipped the scales in favor in terms of the Baron power play. But at the same time, with that Ocean Drake coming up in a second, I think it's going to be a situation where you give up Soul or you give up an inhibitor.
You know, at this point, I would not give up Soul if I'm Mirage Esports. We have to fight this game. We have to make sure we fight a 5-on-5 and make sure, you know, that we get that wombo combo that we so desperately need. As you already see Mirage, they're moving forward, but Niles, he has his own agenda, trying to see if he can end the game by himself.
Yeah, and one thing about that situation is if he does take the inhibitor, then that means that one fight for Maryville will absolutely end the game within the next 5 minutes. Just outright. There is no... They're doing it, and that is going to be the inhibitor falling.
I mean, take a look at that level discrepancy from Tony Top and Niles right now. Level 18 already. Tony Top's still on 16, even though the Ocean Drake does go over to Mirage. It doesn't mean that that's Ocean Soul. It's just a denial of them, and I think that's something that you're going to have to trade for, knowing that giving up that Ocean Soul could just prove victorious for Maryville University. This means that this game is going to go a little bit longer, Hyper.
Yeah, it will go a little bit longer, but I still think that this final Baron will be the way that it will end. Because, again, I just see that being the climactic thing. I don't see it going all the way to Soul. That just seems like these compositions will want to end before then, and somebody will pull the trigger on a massive fight, particularly if Maryville win it, then the game is just outright over.
Patience is the key for both these compositions as we go in approaching 37 minutes here. 5K gold lead in favor for Maryville University, 14-12 so far in this game. And, you know, everything's kind of equal. 3 Drakes to 3, and Turrets 5-7. Both these teams, you know, haven't gotten into a great team fight as of yet. Just been skirmishes left and right. Got to see which teams, you know, play for this game of chicken.
Well, also, the team fights have to be executed on perfectly. One thing that I said earlier was that the team fighting from the side of Mirage is better. Well, that's better if you can land everything. If you land the Explosive Cask, if you land the Cyclone, all knocking up everyone for that last breath from the Oswo, but right now it looks like they're going to try something.
Yeah, Tony Top did go aggressive onto him. Wolfie now going aggressive on Niles, but he has that hook shot. That's a big ultimate being gone from Tony Top as no one goes down.
No one goes down indeed, but at the same time, that just kind of delays that split push a little bit. It chases them off, which is a good situation here for Mirage. It'll allow them to stall for the next Baron without really having to worry about their bottom lane inhibitor also coming under fire. Yeah. Again, I think this Baron will be the thing that ends the game.
You know what, Hyper? I'm 100% with you. I think this Baron is probably going to be the thing that forces these teams to actually start interacting with each other. As it's on that knife's edge. It's about that execution as in these team fights. They have to kind of land everything. But right now, it's all just banking on this. If Maryville takes it, they advance forward to losers finals. If loser semis, and if Mirage takes it, they have one more chance to win the game. So we'll just have to see what happens.
And again, this is kind of a situation that I don't think Maryville expected themselves to be in. Coming in, they looked like the strongest team not named 100 Thieves NXT in the group stage. And now here they are having to fight their way through the lower bracket. I mean, if they win this next fight, this will be the thing that takes them to the lower bracket semifinals. And I believe that will put them in consideration for top 4. After that game, they would get Scouting Grounds point.
You know, whoever takes this game is also has a big chance of just shifting the momentum over towards their favor. If Mirage takes it, a big momentum swing going into game 3. And of course, if they lose, that means they're out of Upsurge and out of those Scouting Ground circle points, as you said. So right now, you know, still Maryville University, they're doing their job. They're getting this vision. This is the one thing that we're still criticizing Mirage of. They're just not there at the objective first.
Yeah, they're not. And at the same time, it is totally on to Maryville to do this. But at the same time, Niles has to make sure that under the tower, he can lose.
Definitely can't. Double Cyclone getting used now, using the Hextech Ultimatum to make sure he gets out. Tony Top looks like he's taking the win right now, and he actually does. Ascillion manages to go in. Actually, he flashes Spore. I think that's a mistake, Ascillion. You don't want to see that happen, as even then, he goes down to Iconic. The fight comes out through. Robbie Bob is nowhere close, as this was a 3-on-4 initially. Tony Top is actually going to be going down into this Guardian Angel. Unfortunately, that's a miss. That's a number advantage for Maryville University. They take advantage of it, and now they're probably going to look to push for the game.
Yeah, and you really can, because you have a 4v2, and it's just a Bard and the Yasuo. The Yasuo does not have any of his enabling support. Right now, that Bard, he's basically just dead weight on the Rift. It's gonna be the fight over the Baron that sealed the deal, as we've said. Even with that other inhibitor down, it doesn't matter, because they're just gonna push through the mid lane.
Let's see if Maryville University wants to see if they can take the gamble here. 20 seconds left on those depth timers on everyone. 4 versus 2 right now. Wolfie does land the chain onto Mist, but the knockup goes through. Last breath catches Wolfie, but Wolfie still has that dash.
Yep.
But look at Value. He's hitting the Nexus turret right now. He's going to see if he can take it down. Robbie Bob is now fighting against everyone else. He goes down. Mist goes down. Ascillion only has 1 second left, but it doesn't matter because the Nexus goes down for Mirage Esports. Maryville University takes the match 2-0.
Yeah, and it does look like that we are going to actually have the win for Maryville University. As right now, I'm actually going to give it away to Alk Battery and Chilling Walk. Guys, tell me what you thought of the game.
You know what, Hyper? First off, I want to say thank you for stepping in, knowing that Alk had some technical difficulties, but he was there to watch that match. And honestly, you know, Alk, we haven't heard anything from you. You have to give your opinions, good sir.
Oh my god. Yeah, honestly, I was a little bit afraid there. I won't lie. I know you guys are on here like, oh, you know, Mirage hang on for a pretty long time. I think there are some itemization issues that I wasn't quite a fan of. Ascillion ended up going full AD. We saw the Tiamat first item here for Wukong. I mean, I know Hyper talked about the Trinity, you know, going Trinity Force versus Black Cleaver on Wukong first, but honestly, that was about as much as I expected coming into the series. Coming in, I was thinking, you know, I don't know what to think of either of these teams. I noted on it when we were coming out of game 1. I don't know who's going to win this series, but Maryville looking a little bit into their ways. I think that Niles got himself a pretty nice lead up on that top side. We saw Botlane was doing well, and yet again, people are ignoring Value. During that a bunch of those team fights, Value is firing away on Aphelios, stacking up a bunch of chakrams, and I mean, Yasuo was doing great. Robbie Bob was doing well for himself. He got themselves the resources, but kind of akin to Hayami's Echo last night, it was just a lot of farming and not a lot of doing.
Yeah, and this gets pretty tough. Hayami had a 4-0 start in that game, and then unfortunately didn't manage to do anything off it, even though Robbie Bob was 4-1-4. I mean, this game is honestly just based on the top lane, because Tony Top went 1-6 this game and had a pretty tough matchup overall. And, you know, Maryville, credit to them, they played that 1-3-1 pretty well, you know, catching these people off guard. Mirage did have a chance of going in, but unfortunately that last push on the bottom side kind of costing him that game here, getting caught out by Wolfie with that double distortion. Did so much damage and honestly costed that retreat.
Yeah, and honestly, you just got to take a look at that top side matchup. I think Tony Top has been somewhat of a weakness for this team, depending on how strong the enemy top laner is. Niles is someone that if you show weakness, he will prey on you. He will just find whatever advantages. He will also overextend a lot of those times, like we saw towards the end of that. He goes under turret, doesn't end up being too super impactful. But I mean, personally, I think that there was, you know, still a few things for Maryville to work on. There's a couple of times that personally I think they could have gone for that end, going for those aces. They ended up kind of retreating towards Baron. They have to go for a reset, and then we see the game stall out for another 5 to 10 minutes. There is definitely some things that they can work on, sharpen themselves up, especially going into playoffs. I want to make sure I have this right. Simplicity got the 2 over Radiance. I don't. I'd have to ask. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's happening. I think they're still 1-1. I know that Simplicity won the first game versus Radiance, but either way, Maryville have a lot to work on. Especially, you know, you went up against Mirage, did fine, but against, I think specifically Simplicity, where you have BMD waiting for you up there, it's gonna be one hell of a knockout match.
Yeah, honestly, I'm excited to see what happens in the loser semis, because whoever wins that is going to be playing against the loser of winners finals. And you know, the winners finals is going to be between a new and 100 Thieves next, and you know, that's going to be a pretty hype matchup. Last night we Oh, actually, it's right now still going on. We're gonna see who comes out the winner for tonight, and that's honestly gonna be a pretty surprising thing to see because we talked about last night. Mirage was the ones who had a chance of taking a match against 100 Thieves next, and unfortunately weren't able to do so. And now it's all up to Anu if they can take down the gods and be those god slingers, and just have to see what happens. And honestly, I'm just excited. I'm just excited, man.
Yeah, that will be a huge matchup. I mean, Anu versus 100 Thieves. I think those are the two members that are kind of front running a lot of SGC, especially recently. I mean, Anu's looked on fire to kind of put it lightly. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm still on the fence on Maryville. I think that this was a much needed victory, obviously, to stay not only in SGC but also in Upsurge. And I need to see a lot more, and I think a lot of the viewers need to see more from Maryville to regain a lot of that confidence and kind of come back to that Maid of Honor title that we saw bestowed onto them.
All right, well, you said it right. You said it just right. I'll have to see what Maryville can do. A much needed win. Hopefully, they rally together and go through the loser semis and losers finals to make it to grands. And it's going to be a tall task. It's going to be a great Cinderella story if they manage to make it through. Everyone in Twitch chat, I know you guys have a lot of faith in Maryville University. They're one of the only collegiate programs as well, but we'll have to see what happens that occurs this rest of the week here as me and Oak Battery and Hypertension, we're going to be closing out. I want to thank everyone on Upsurge, thank everyone on Twitch chat for stopping by and watching all of us, hanging out with all of us, watching this match here. We'll have to see how Mirage does in the rest of the scouting ground circuit, so have faith on them. But with that being said, we're going to end the stream here. Thank you all for watching and have a good night.